on satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Making headlines first at 9. In hot water, AG Department seeks legal action against Perpetual Treasuries Limited for fabricating evidence. With or without mace, Southern Provincial Council rejects the draft bill on 20th Amendment. Leaning supporter of Rajgiriya, RDA claims nothing wrong with Rajgiriya flyover. Making headlines from international arena. Getting closer. Japanese Prime Minister talks to US President against North Korea's most provocative missile test yet. In sports, time's up. Sanjay Surya-led selection committee tenders their resignations. Bringing you news from home and across the world, this is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7. Good evening, I'm Katharina Chang. Now on to our top stories tonight. Additional Solicitor General Dappula Dilivera today requested the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the central bank bond issuance to take legal action against Perpetual Treasuries Limited and its CEO for handing over fabricated material to the Commission as evidence. Meanwhile, the Perpetual Treasuries computer, which records telephone conversations, was taken into custody by the CID.
Perpetual Treasuries Limited handed over almost 240,000 phone conversations under a directive of the Commission of Inquiry recently. Through an affidavit, the CEO of Perpetual Treasuries, Kasun Palisena, informed the Commission that his company's telephone conversation recording system does not record numbers of incoming and outgoing calls. However, the company which designed the particular system, named Extended Voice Logger, had informed the Commission that this system is designed to not only record numbers of all phone calls but also their times. Appearing before the Commission, the chief engineer of the company, Nalin Dharmaratna, also said Perpetual Treasuries had reinstalled the system on the 7th of July this year without prior notice to its service provider. He also went on to say that when they attempted to retrieve data under the Commission's directives for the period of 1st of February 2015 to 1st of May 2016, they did not find the relevant data in the system. Following the events, Additional Solicitor General Dappula Dilivera told the Commission today that it has been revealed as to how Perpetual Treasuries deleted data recorded in the system. He argued that Perpetual Treasuries had fabricated evidence before the Commission.
3 persons were shot and were left injured this morning along the Jayantaveerasekara Mawatha in Maradona. Police said that 2 unidentified gunmen opened fire on a 3-wheeler.
The incident took place at 9:15 this morning when 2 gunmen on a motorcycle opened fire on a 3-wheeler targeting its passengers. The incident was captured on several CCTV cameras in the vicinity. According to the police media spokesperson, the injured are residents of Boralla and are 20, 26 and 31 years of age. He added that the injured were on their way to court on a legal matter when they came under gunfire. A T-56 firearm was used in the incident. A spokesperson of the National Hospital said one of the victims is in serious condition. The Colombo Crimes Division are conducting further investigations.
The Southern Provincial Council today rejected the draft bill of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution with a majority of 27 votes. Meanwhile, the mace was damaged during the proceedings as the provincial councillor of the United National Party snatched it away from the chamber.
The Southern Provincial Council today convened a special session to debate the draft bill of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. However, the chamber was informed by the chairman that the session be adjourned until the 12th of September upon instructions of the governor. The chairman, however, decided to suspend the session temporarily when the members representing the joint opposition opposed the adjournment. Amid protestations, council member Chandana Priyantha of the UNP snatched the mace and took it to the latrine. The mace, however, broke in three during retrieval efforts. Despite the session resuming after repairs to the mace, some council members of the UNP and the UPFA representing the governing party, including the Chief Minister, were not present in the chamber. The chairman proceeded to the vote, resulting in the defeat of the draft bill to the 20th Amendment to the Constitution by 27 votes to nil. In the meantime, Sabaragamuwa Provincial Council postponed the vote on the draft bill of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution until the 12th of September following instructions by the governor.
President Maithripala today instructed relevant officials to purchase 100 bowsers to make drinking water distribution to drought-ridden people across the country more efficient. The President gave these directives at a progress review meeting at the Presidential Secretariat.
President Maithripala inquired the effective distribution of dry rations among people in drought-hit areas across the country. He highlighted the importance of preparing for severe drought conditions, which could occur in the future as well as a result of climate change. He explained the necessity of preparation as a country through research as well as long-term planning. The President also reviewed the programs implemented to provide water and food for affected wildlife. The head of state also instructed the deployment of Triforce's personnel in this endeavour.
Meanwhile, a program to distribute Sondru Piazza housing loans to 1,100 residents of Colombo was held under patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe today.
The loan scheme aims to provide low-income families the necessary capital to complete their housing construction as well as renovations.
The main problem for low-income families is getting the capital needed to build their houses. We're helping them to this end. Everyone thought that this government too will see its downfall with the debt burden. But we have already decided not to be discouraged by the debt. We accepted the situation and tried to find solutions. We're now getting ready for a large-scale development process. It is through this development process that we will be able to pay back all the debt within our generation.
UPFA MP Bandala Gunawardena today sounded an alarm to potential investors, saying tax breaks included in their private agreements will not be binding if the specifics are not included in the Inland Revenue Bill set to be tabled on the 7th of next month. He made this remark at a media briefing held to launch his book titled Badodadiyama in Colombo.
The Information Department recently said that only those earning over 100,000 rupees a month will be taxed. This is false. Even those who earn 50,000 rupees a month will also be taxed. Furthermore, this bill does not mention any of the previously granted tax concessions. Relief and concessions, which were mentioned across 44 pages, are now reduced to just 2 pages. Religious institutions, charities, agriculture sector and those involved in arts and drama are now unable to obtain any information on concessions taken away from them. The Inland Revenue Act will destroy our countrymen and will only work towards the benefit of foreign investors. According to the Supreme Court orders, the government has agreed to make the necessary amendments on the draft bill and consult us once more. Then certain conditions in the draft bill can only be passed if it receives 2/3 majority in Parliament.
Leader of the Mahajan Eksat Peramuna MP Dinesh Gunawardena states that the government's conduct was dictatorial when passing the local government elections amendment bill. MP Gunawardena voiced these concerns at a media briefing held in Colombo today.
The chairman of the Elections Commission, Mahinda Deshapriya, proposed an amendment to the Local Government Election Act, which included details of voting centres, dates and times of the upcoming elections. We stated that we would vote in favour of it if further amendments are not made. However, instead of passing the draft bill, the government took it up for debate at the Parliament last week and added 50 more amendments. Under accepted norms, amendments outside the Act cannot be brought forth. The citizens have the right to challenge any Act and amendment in courts if they conflict with the Constitution. However, intervention of the courts is not possible with these 50 amendments. That right has been taken away. That's why we attempted to alter the amendments. Nevertheless, the government proceeded with a vote in order to pass the draft bill containing 50 amendments. That is why we abstained from voting.
UPF MP Ranjit Souza says the present government should not be allowed to move forward. Parliamentarian Ranjit Souza expressed these remarks at a public gathering held yesterday in Ambalipitia, which was also addressed by MP Pavitra Vanyarachi.
Try and find anyone who voted for the swan or the elephant at the presidential election if it's possible. Nobody can trace the voters because there is nothing of worth that occurred as a result of casting their vote. Votes for former Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa are also among the 6.2 million votes. Would he now vote for the UNP? We will see how he votes in the near future. Universities are shut and the students are at home. It's been 2 years since the medical college was shut down. In the last few days, I went to the gas station to get fuel. It was closed. I went to the hospital to get medicine, but the hospital was also closed. This government should not be allowed to move forward.
We support former President Mahinda Rajapaksa because he will not let the country be divided, nor will he sell off the country's resources. He ruled the country in accordance with Buddhist principles. Is this a government which serves a simple man? Regardless of all obstacles, this government would indeed be toppled.
Former Minister A.H.M. Azwar passed away this evening at the age of 80 at a private hospital in Colombo. Azwar was born on the 8th of February 1937 and served as a teacher as well as a journalist. He entered politics via Sama Samaja Party and later represented the United People's Freedom Alliance. In a steep escalation of tensions on the Korean peninsula, North Korea fired an intermediate-range ballistic missile over Japan's northern Hokkaido island early today, prompting warnings for residents to take cover while provoking stern condemnation from Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and other world leaders. The latest missile test, one of the most provocative ever from the reclusive state, comes as US and South Korean forces conduct annual military drills on the peninsula, to which North Korea strenuously objects.
This is the first time North Korea has fired a ballistic weapon over Japan. The missile flew a distance of more than 2,700 kilometers and fell into the North Pacific Ocean, about 1,200 kilometers off the Japanese coast. In South Korea, a spokesman said South Korean President Moon Jae-in ordered a show of overwhelming force in response to the launch. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe strongly condemned the launch and said he had spoken to US President Donald Trump, adding that both agreed to increase pressure on North Korea.
On developing news, as Tropical Storm Harvey continues to batter Houston in the U.S. state of Texas, a major dam outside the city has begun spilling over as the storm pushes the reservoir past capacity. Now more than 3,000 people have been rescued, and officials say at least 9 people are reported to have died in incidents related to the storm. We now have First at 9's Chief International Affairs Analyst Anuradha Herat reporting from the US on the current disaster situation.
The impact of Hurricane Harvey is now in its fifth day. The hurricane made landfall in the southeastern Texas region on Friday. And one of the differences between this storm and other major storms that we have seen in that part of the country is that much of the destruction was caused by flooding with Hurricane Harvey, whereas in previous hurricanes, much of the destruction was actually caused by the high wind speeds. So what happens usually when a hurricane, particularly in the Gulf of Mexico, comes landfall is that high speeds cause much of the destruction, but then again it quickly moves the storm inward and inland so that the storm weakens, and then much of the destruction that's left behind is because of the high wind speeds. But in the case of Hurricane Harvey, what happened is the storm made landfall and it sort of lingered in that part of Texas near the Houston area and the southeastern part of Texas. And that is what continued to bring more and more rain in that part of the region, which caused the flooding. Now the hurricane has moved back into the Gulf of Mexico, and it is expected to make landfall again tomorrow, Wednesday here. So it's going to bring even more rain. So unfortunately, the situation for the people in that region is going to get a little bit worse before it actually gets better.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news across the world.
Following days of torrential rains, floods in India's eastern Bihar state have killed 514 people. Officials say approximately 17.1 million people in 29 districts of the state have been affected. US President Donald Trump reaffirmed his hope for good relations with Russia. He was speaking at a White House news conference with visiting Finnish President Sauli Niinistö.
I think it's a good thing if we have great relationships, or at least good relationships with Russia. It's a big country, it's a nuclear country, it's a country that we should get along with.
Welcome back to the news. On Business News tonight, we start off with your stock update. Shares ended slightly weaker today, hovering near a more than 4-month closing low hit last week, as foreign investors sold diversified shares. We now have the daily market update with Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,901.38 billion rupees. Top 5 gainers of the day were Blue Diamonds, non-voting, Tess Agro, non-voting, Nation Lanka Finance, Anilana Hotels and Kalini Cables, while the top 5 losers were Huge International, Taprobin Holdings, Adam Capital, Colombo Investment Trust and Swarna Mahal Financial Services. Today's foreign purchases were 479.49 million rupees and foreign sales were 974.49 million rupees.
On currency, the Sri Lankan rupee closed firmer today as dollar sales by banks and exporters surpassed importer demand for the US currency. The spot rupee ended at 152.75 to 82 per dollar, compared with yesterday's close of 152.90 cents to 95 cents. Let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies during the day. Getting back to our locals now, the National Medicine Regulatory Authority says further studies are underway on assessing whether dengue vaccine could be introduced to the country. Chairman of the authority, Professor Asita De Silva, stated in a media briefing yesterday that a decision should be made following a proper scientific study.
At present, there is only one dengue vaccine that has gone beyond experimental stage and can be introduced to the market. It has been developed by a French corporation and has already been registered in several countries. Sri Lankan authorities have been instructed to assess whether it can be registered here. However, it can't be given to everyone. For some, the vaccine will be risky. This vaccine can't be administered like others.
Minister of Megapolis and Western Development, Partali Champika Ranawaka, today inaugurated the launch of the third phase of the priority bus lane system. Following the inauguration, the minister responded to questions raised by journalists touching on the recent political developments in the country.
The third phase of the priority bus lane system was launched from the Parliament roundabout this morning. The program intends to minimize the congestion. It will be in effect from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
It's the duty of the police and the Aegis department. For an example, Entrust Securities, owned by Ratwate, is also involved in the bond issue. They have defrauded 12 billion rupees of public money, including 4.5 billion rupees from the ETF of the employees of the Electricity Board and many other companies. But they received bail in just 2 days. A schoolgirl was remanded for stealing 8 coconuts. But the crooks who defrauded 12 billion rupees are treated as gentlemen, and the society has allowed it. The law should not only be independent, but also impartial and efficient. If not, the society, especially the young generations, will lose faith in law. It's good. Majority of government officers are females. Majority of the doctors, lawyers and judges are also females. So what's the difference when the Justice Minister is female? No, it is to exact revenge from the corrupted. Exacting revenge from corrupted is a social responsibility. If the Rajapaksas are corrupted and if there are any others, they should also be punished.
The Sri Lankan cricket selection panel led by Sana Jayasuriya today stepped down following the defeats of both Test and ODI series against India. Lasith Malinga, meanwhile, has been appointed to lead the Sri Lankan team for the 4th ODI against India after stand-in captain Chamara Kapugedera suffered a back injury.
Sri Lanka suffered an embarrassing 3-0 defeat in the Test series and have already lost the 5-match ODI series against Virat Kohli's Indian team. A spokesperson from the Sports Ministry said that Sri Lanka cricket chief selector Sana Jayasuriya as well as committee members Ranjit Souza, Romesh Kaluvitarana, Asanka Gurusinghe and Eric Upashanta have also decided to resign. He also said that a letter bearing the names of the above committee has conveyed this decision to Sports Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara, and according to the letter, their tenure will end on the 7th of September following the end of the current series against India.
Maria Sharapova made a dramatic return to Grand Slam action as the Russian wildcard outlasted second seed Simona Halep 6-4, 4-6, 6-3 yesterday to get the year's final Grand Slam off to an electrifying start.
Still shaking off the rust from a 15-month doping ban and a string of nagging injuries, 30-year-old Sharapova needed all her skills to snatch victory in front of a packed Arthur Ashe Stadium. Her progress was slowed by a thigh injury that forced her out of the Italian Open in May and more recently left arm issues which hampered her in the second round at Stanford earlier this month. However, there was no hint of distress against Halep as she improved her record to 7-0 against the Romanian in the opening round clash.
Let's cross over to Shenla Fernando at the other Derana Weather Centre with the forecast for the next 24 hours.
A very good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. 20 to 35 degrees Celsius, that's what the temperatures are going to be this evening, with the range expected to prevail over the next 24 hours across the island. People in Hambantota and Madruoe areas may couple that with fairly windy weather. There is a possibility of afternoon thundershowers in northern, north central, eastern and Uba provinces. Meanwhile, several spells of showers are likely in the western, Sabaragamuwa, northwestern and central provinces and in the Galle district. That's it from the Weather Centre tonight, and let's now take a look at your city-by-city forecast.
And before we go, we'd like to take you to Serbia, where around 1,000 European medieval enthusiasts from 17 countries gathered for an open-air festival in central Serbia on Saturday to celebrate all things medieval. The festival, set against the backdrop of a well-preserved 15th century monastery, showcased medieval food and music as well as sword fighting and jousting. Thank you for joining us. Have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.